Hello everyone, and welcome to another interesting game from the Gibraltar Chess Festival. This is round 6. In my previous video you've seen how Chucky demolishes Tal Baron with the white pieces. This is a round played after that game. Unfortunately there is no interview after this game, neither with Ivanchuk or with Chanda Sandipan. Sandipan is an Indian grandmaster. He's been a grandmaster since 2003, and he was also Vishwanathan Anand's second in his World Chess Championship match in 2013 against Magnus Carlsen. So quite a strong player, and here he has the white pieces against Ivanchuk. Probably neither of them were interested in giving an interview. I've checked the TradeWise Gibraltar YouTube channel. There is no interview with either of them. It's a shame, but the game is also interesting. The game reminds me in a lot of ways of the famous game Bronstein versus Najdorf. I will put a link to that game in the description below, as it's a pretty same theme, but you'll see what I mean. So Sandipan has the white pieces and he opens with the d4, knight to f6 and c4. After beating Tal Baron in the previous round, Ivanchuk said that he's very much looking forward to facing a stronger opponent in the next round. So we'll see if his wish will be fulfilled. e6 by Ivanchuk and knight to c3 and the bishop to b4. Chucky goes for the Nimzo Indian defense. e3, this is the main line. c5, this is the Hubner variation. Knight to e2, c captures on d4, e captures on d4, and d5 now by Ivanchuk. c5, we have knight to e4, pinning that, attacking the pinned piece. Bishop to d2 defending, Ivanchuk captures, queen captures, and here we have a5. a3, Ivanchuk captures on c3, knight captures on c3, and now here Ivanchuk has a couple of options. He can go bishop d7, he can go b6 to try and undermine this c5 d4 structure Sandipan created in the center, but again Ivanchuk goes for the most active idea. He plays a4. This prevents white from pushing b4, and also it's a very annoying pawn. Next probably Ivanchuk will go b6, bishop to d7, and maybe castle if you know, the situation on the queen side won't get out of hand. But here Sandipan also has a couple of very nice options. He can go bishop to d3 developing, he can go knight b5, he can go rook c1, a lot of ideas here. But he plays a move that when I saw it I immediately thought this is just bad, this must be losing. But he played knight captures on a4, and what do you make of this move? I mean, of course, rook captures, bishop b5 check, but then bishop blocks, and I mean, Sandipan will give up 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn. So I thought this can be good. Rook captures by Ivanchuk, we have bishop to b5 check, bishop blocks, bishop captures, and as you see, Ivanchuk won 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn. Here we have queen to b4, attacking the bishop on a4, queen to d7, and Sandipan castles here. And this was a good opportunity for Ivanchuk to castle as well. He could have castled here, for example, and after b3, bishop to b5, attacking the rook on f1. After the rook moves, bishop to d3. From here, the bishop would be very strong, very influential. He could, you know, Ivanchuk would decide what to do with this bishop, but it would be possible to stop all of these pawns, and not a problem there. But after this castles, Ivanchuk goes for queen to b5, and here he allows this b3 move. What happens now is Ivanchuk captures the queen, we have a captures on b4, and here Ivanchuk has to decide whether he will capture the b3 pawn or will he retrieve with the bishop. If he captures the b3 pawn, then comes rook to b1, bishop moves, and now b5, and it's very hard to develop this knight. Let's say bishop d3, rook moves, now king to e7, trying to bring the rook into the game, but now rook to a7 is coming. And it's again very hard to find a move here for Ivanchuk. Knight to d7, c6 is coming, and white is simply better. If you capture, then white wins back the piece, but again, it's obvious that at one point Ivanchuk would have to give up a piece to stop those pawns. But after a captures on b4, Ivanchuk plays bishop to b5, and this is better. You don't want to grab that doubled b3 pawn, better to move the bishop while attacking the rook. Here we have rook to a7, and this is the main idea. If you play something like rook to e1, rook to d1, trying to defend this rook, then if Ivanchuk manages to play king to d7, king to c6, there is really nothing more white can do here. These pawns are stopped. There is no more pawn storm. So rook to a7 immediately. That b7 pawn is much more important than capturing, saving the rook on f1. Ivanchuk captures the rook. We have rook captures on b7, now threatening to capture the knight. Knight to c6, and here king captures on f1. And this is why I said that it reminds me of the famous Bronstein-Najdorf game. I will put it in the description below so you can check it out. I made a video about that game some couple of months ago, and I will also put it in the end screen so you can simply click on it if you're interested. Because here it's pretty much an equal position. But like in the Bronstein-Najdorf game, Najdorf had the option of either castling or leaving the king in the center. And here, for some reason, Ivanchuk thought that it was actually okay to castle. Here, Ivanchuk castled, and from there, pretty much everything went downhill. A move he should have played was rook to f8, defending the f7 pawn, and now the king is allowed to come into the game. For example, b5. Now you can either capture on d4. You have b6. The pawns are going forward. But now you play king to d8. Rook to a7, now let's say knight c6, rook attacks it, knight to b3, you do get c6, but now comes, let's say, g5, king e2, h5, we have king to d2, and now knight captures on c6. Here, it's very hard for either side to make progress, so white can never push b7, and Ivanchuk can either maybe decide to push f5, e5, maybe push some pawns, or he can decide to immediately go for a draw. But definitely it's not white that can decide anything. So probably after you capture it, rook captures, and king here, let's say a couple of moves are played after rook to b8. You do have doubled b pawns, and you simply can't make any progress here for white. So after this king to f1, capturing this piece, Ivanchuk castled instead of playing rook to f8. Here b5 was played, you have knight to a5, and here rook to c7, and it was in this position that Ivanchuk resigned the game, as he saw that the pawn storm will be too much for him to handle. One variation that we might check, let's say knight captures on b3, now b6, g6, making some breathing space for the king, b7, now knight to a5, as the threat was rook to c8. Now if rook to c8, knight simply captures on b7, but now you get c6, and after king moves, let's say rook to c8, and now the threat is of course capturing the rook, also promoting to a queen, so here black must give up the knight. Capturing on c6, also protecting the queening square. White will grab this, and after rook to b8, simply rook to c7. Here king f6, but now after king e2 and a couple of more moves, you will see that there is no way for the black king to approach the position. E5 is covered by the pawn on d4, this is covered by the rook, and the king can never touch the last rank, because rook c8 check wins the game. So it's very hard for black to play this. The material is equal, but the b7 pawn is simply too powerful. If black wants to make any progress, he will probably have to push e5, but then after d captures, king captures, rook captures on f7, he has to give up a pawn to try and get back into the game, but it doesn't work. King to d4, and even if black manages to win the b7 pawn by playing king to c6, white will happily exchange, and then the white king will pick up all of these pawns and win the game. So yeah, after this captures, castles, b5, knight to a5, and rook to c7, Ivanchuk resigned the game, and a very nice victory for the Indian Grandmaster Chanda Sandipan. I mean, when I saw that knight captures on a4, I was like, this is just insane. This can't work. But as you can see, it does work. and it also worked for Bronstein in his famous game against Najdorf, which I encourage you to check it out. So that's the game from round 6 of Tradewise Gibraltar Chess Festival. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank William Avery. Thank you for your constant contributions to my channel. I would like to thank Thomas Mason, Atish Mehta. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. The top one will be from the famous Bronstein-Najdorf game. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, probably with another game from the Gibraltar Tradewise Chess Festival. And also, I think I'm all set with my Twitch channel, so I will do a test stream very soon after uploading this video. So, thank you all, and I will see you soon.